Hi, my name is Tanya Al-Amin, and I'll be introducing the topic of cigarettes to you. Cigarettes are one of the most sought-after products in the world. Every year, the revenue generated by cigarettes globally exceeds $800 billion, contributing greatly to the global economy. The tobacco industry in India is one of the largest in the world. The production and distribution of cigarettes plays a major part in the economic growth of the country. There are many advantages and disadvantages of producing and consuming cigarettes. The tobacco industry leaves both positive and negative effects on consumers, producers, and the government of India. Now let's talk about some factors that affect supply and demand as a whole. In India, cigarettes are a relatively inelastic good, meaning that the demand for cigarettes changes less than the price does. In other words, the change in price for cigarettes affects the demand for them, but to a lesser degree. The elasticity of cigarettes is more price responsive in lower income households than higher income households. In the poorest group in India, the elasticity of cigarettes is negative 0.4328 and negative 0.0815 in the richest, showing the difference in price sensitivity between them. Therefore, as the price of cigarettes increase, demand for them will decrease slightly in return. Due to price sensitivity, cigarettes are a normal good. This entails a change in demand for cigarettes as income levels vary. Among higher income households, demand for cigarettes increases, whereas lower income households consume less cigarettes. As income levels increase, demand for cigarettes increases alongside it. Now let's talk about supply and demand as a whole. Cigarettes make up 90% of the tobacco market, and with 28.6% of the Indian population consuming tobacco, demand for cigarettes and other tobacco-produced products are high, with $12.7 billion in revenue. Supply of cigarettes in India is high, with it being the third largest exporter in the world. Cigarettes, like most goods, follow the laws of supply and demand. Thus, the quantity demanded decreases as the price increases. As shown in Figure 2, a decrease in the price of a pack of cigarette from 70.84 rupees to 10.83 rupees results in an increase in the quantity demanded by 11.7 billion packs. This is shown by subtracting 79.3 from 91, showing that consumers are less willing to purchase cigarettes as the price increases. This is known as movement along the demand curve, since price is the only factor affecting the quantity demanded. Subsequently, Figure 1 demonstrates how the production of cigarettes adheres to the law of supply. This allows for the quantity of cigarette packs supplied to increase as the price that they are sold for increases due to an increase in the willingness of producers to supply more and in return gain more profit at a higher price. This is shown by the upward sloping supply curve in Figure 1.
Right. So the advantages and disadvantages of the consumption of cigarettes. In India, tobacco products, including specifically cigarettes, contribute to a great amount to the government's tax revenue. Tobacco products, according to the Indian Institute of Tobacco, contributed approximately 30,000 to 35,000 crore rupees annually to the government's tax revenue. Moreover, employment in the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry, specifically the cigarette manufacturing industry, provides employment to a great number of people in India. According to the Tobacco Institute of India, it employed over 2 million people in various sectors, such as manufacturing, distribution, and farming. And it also indirectly supports 4 to 5 million more people through allied industries and businesses. The disadvantages are the health costs due to smoking-related illnesses. Smoking-related illnesses incur a significant healthcare expense in India. The annual healthcare costs due to smoking-related diseases was estimated to be in several of thousands crores, though exact figures may vary depending on the report and the studies looked at. There's a great environmental impact to tobacco consumption, where tobacco cultivation and the production of cigarettes has a very notable environmental impact. Tobacco cultivation often contributes to deforestation and environmental degradation, affecting a diverse range of ecosystems within India and outside of India if the cigarettes are imported. Cigarettes production also causes pollution and waste generation. Moreover, another disadvantage of the consumption of cigarettes in India is the loss of efficiency and the productivity due to cigarettes being addictive in their nature. The labor productivity may also be decreased, making the Indian labor less efficient in their overall production. The pros and cons of the production of cigarettes. As mentioned before, there's a large economic contribution to the production of in the production of cigarettes to the Indian economy. Between 2019 to 2020, the tobacco industry, specifically the Indian cigarette manufacturing industry, contributed to 1.8% to India's GDP, according to the Tobacco Institute of India. Moreover, as mentioned before, employment generation, direct employment within cigarette manufacturing and related activities was estimated to be over 2 million people, with an additional 4 to 5 million people involved in various different stages of the tobacco industry, according to the Tobacco Institute of India. Another great advantage of production of cigarettes in India is the revenue generation. Tobacco taxes, including specifically those on cigarettes, contribute a significant amount to the government revenue of India. Between 2019 to 2024, the tobacco sector is estimated to have contributed around 34,000 crore in excise and custom duties, also according to the Tobacco Institute of India. The disadvantages of cigarette production in India are as follows: healthcare costs and public health impact. Healthcare costs due to smoking-related illnesses by the source of Tobacco Institute of India is estimated to be substantial. Between 2019 to 2020, the estimated healthcare costs attributed to tobacco use was approximately 1.4 lakh crore rupees, which is a great amount for the Indian healthcare system, and it induces an opportunity cost where the benefit of the reduction of the production of cigarettes may allow the healthcare system to use this 1.4 lakh crore rupees in other sectors, developing them. Moreover, as mentioned before, the environmental impact, according to the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, on average, there's an estimated 200,000 hectares of forest area that is used annually for tobacco cultivation within India. There's a social cost of addiction. Social costs related to smoking and addiction include the increased risk for family members' health due to exposure of secondhand smoke. According to the World Health Organization in India, studies suggest that around 30 to 40% of children are exposed to secondhand smoke in India. Right. So now I'll be discussing the effect of government intervention within the market of cigarettes in India. In figure 1, the figure 1 shows an approximation of the market for cigarettes in India before government intervention, where the equilibrium lies on 91 billion cigarette packs at the price of 10.83 rupees. And the production and the producer and the consumer surplus are highlighted in red and blue respectively, where the equilibrium is labeled as E. The demand for cigarette packets in the Indian market is relatively inelastic in nature, which refers to a smaller change in quantity demanded when there is a change in price. The demand for cigarettes is inelastic because of their highly addictive nature, and as a large percentage of the Indian population depend on cigarettes for their daily nicotine intake. However, in accordance to the disadvantages mentioned, cigarettes are demerit goods, which means that the consumption of cigarettes produces a negative externality, i.e., its consumption has negative third-party effects within the Indian economy. Hence, India attempts to limit these negative effects of production and the consumption of cigarettes through government intervention by imposing a sin tax, which refers to a tax levied on a specific good or service that is deemed harmful to society. In this context, the taxation will primarily be faced by the consumers due to the demand being inelastic. With the indirect taxes being regressive in nature, the tax's impact will primarily alter the demand for cigarettes for low-income consumers, as they spend a relatively greater percentage of their income on cigarettes. As shown in figure 2, with the imposition of the sin tax, the supply curve shifts left from supply to supply plus sin tax. This is because the tax increases the price of factors of production, which in turn shifts the supply to the left. This in turn increases the price from 10.38 rupees to 70.84 rupees and shifts the equilibrium from point A to point B. As price increases from 10.83 rupees to 70.84 rupees, in accordance with the law of demand that states as price increases, demand decreases, ceteris paribus, the quantity demanded decreases from 91 billion to 79 billion. Furthermore, both consumers and producer surpluses, which in this figure are colored red and blue respectively, are decreased after the sin tax, where there is an additional government revenue. Moreover, the imposition of the sin tax causes an opportunity cost, as due to the reduced quantity demanded and produced, there could be unemployment within the industry. Building upon this, the taxation further creates a dead weight loss, as shown in the figure colored in purple, which indicates the market not functioning or existing at its maximum efficiency. The opportunity benefit of the imposition of the tax is the reduced production and consumption of the cigarettes, further reducing its negative medical and environmental impacts on the Indian societies. However, this comes at the opportunity cost of the loss of employment that may incur as the byproduct of the reduced production and the dead weight loss, indicating to a loss in market efficiency. Now, our second good is e-cigarettes, which are considered to be substitutes. E-cigarettes are often considered to be substitutes for traditional cigarettes, where we can assess a cross-price elasticity for e-cigarettes and cigarettes, further considering how changes in their respective prices affects consumer behavior. Cigarettes, due to the similar features and experiences compared to regular cigarettes, are seen as substitutable, which when the price of one product changes, it influences demand for another. In this case, when the price of e-cigarettes may change, it may also change the demand for the normal traditional cigarettes. Based on which is relatively cheaper. This shift in consumer preference between these products has a significant impact on the tobacco market, altering how people choose to purchase and consume tobacco products.
Provided figure illustrates the demand and the supply curve for the e-cigarettes, where the law of demand and supply can be applied, which states that as price increases, the quantity demanded decreases and the quantity supplied increases. Any further changes in the price would lead to the movement along the demand and supply curve, whereas any other factors such as change in taste, expectations, and any other factors shift the demand curve, the same way as supply curve can be shifted as well due to the changes in the technology or price of inputs or other factors. E-cigarettes market is at the equilibrium price of 1,000 rupees and the equilibrium quantity of 3.3 million units, whereas above the equilibrium level, we can see the consumer surplus, and below the equilibrium level, in the blue triangle, we can see producer surplus. Nicotine products are universally found to be priced inelastic, as they are addictive goods, which means that the percentage decline in the consumption is less than the percentage increase in the price. Estimates suggest an e-cigarette's own price elasticity of demand of -0.8. Figure 1 shows the PPF, PPC, or PPP model that illustrates achievable quantities that can be produced of two goods, cigarettes and e-cigarettes, if both depend upon the same limited resources for their manufacture. It can be used to illustrate the concepts of scarcity, opportunity cost, efficiency, inefficiency, and economic growth. The graph 1 illustrates inefficient but feasible use of resources at the point of C, and at the point of A and B, we can see the feasible and efficient use of resources, which means that resources such as land, labor, and capital are used fully. And furthermore, further progression in technology or an increase in the economist factors of production can lead to the outwards shift in the PPF, which means economic growth. Figure 2 and 1 show the PPF for two countries, China and India, illustrating the concepts of comparative and absolute advantage in production of e-cigarettes and cigarettes. According to the data, China has an absolute advantage in producing both goods and a comparative advantage in producing e-cigarettes. However, India has a comparative advantage in producing cigarettes. This links to the concept of gains from trade, as India specializes in producing cigarettes, which means it can trade with China. Production of e-cigarettes has its own advantages as well, such as job creation, tax revenues, economic contribution, innovation and technologies, as e-cigarettes industry can advance battery technology, microelectronics, innovation in material science, as well as export opportunities. As the vapes market is highly competitive, the industry has seen rapid growth. So there may be opportunities for export that contributes to international trade and foreign exchange earnings. And as it was shown on the previous slide, the comparative and absolute advantage, graph 2 and 1, the international trade between China and India. Companies can aim to expand their market as well, presence globally, contributing to increased competition on the international scale. However, production of e-cigarettes has its own disadvantages as well, such as healthcare expenditure, productivity loss, including decreased work efficiency, that impacts economic growth overall as well, which means that less output is generated for the same inputs of resources. Industries and businesses with a lower productivity might not be able to compete in the global market. regulatory challenges as well that includes the cost of the compliance, such as quality control, and impact on the final price of e-cigarettes that affects demand as well, and higher government expenditure due to nicotine addiction. As well, there are some advantages of consumption of e-cigarettes as well. So compared to the traditional cigarettes, e-cigarettes are less harmful to the environment and also has a substitute effect. So e-cigarettes can be effective in smoking cessation. So the opportunity cost, the benefit of vaping rather than smoking. It also leads to the job creation that contributes to employment opportunities. So it also refers to the circular flow diagram, where when more people are employed, there is an increase in the household income that is later spent on the goods and services, which leads to the higher revenues for the businesses. This also links back to one of the principles of the economy-wide interactions. One person's spending is another person's income. And also government collects taxes that can be later used for the public services and the initiatives. But there are some advantages of the consumption as well, which are the environmental impact, because e-cigarettes market represents the market failure based on the negative externalities, such as negative health effect and external cost, healthcare and addiction. And of the known health risk, the most severe seem to emerge from the black market variants of e-cigarettes laced with the prohibited substances. However, the real cost of consuming e-cigarettes can be assessed according to the marginal decision, comparing the cost and the benefits of consuming a bit more or a bit less of e-cigarettes.
Thank you, Sherry and Sophia. The production and sale of cigarettes and e-cigarettes in India can be both beneficial and detrimental. It benefits the government through taxation while also increasing healthcare expenses and negatively impacting the environment. Both goods have the ability to provide the Indian government and economy with additional tax revenue and trade opportunities, all while affecting consumers negatively by means of health effects.